we would like to say that there are many things here that are in play and that might be optional, that there are many things that are in these relationships that might seem quite structured, predetermined almost when you go into them, that are actually optional. It's just not necessarily that you are feeling that they are optional, and it's all has to do with how you perceive yourself and your partner within this relationship. And so if you feel that you have the ability to see the things in the way that you want to, you will have a much easier time to actually change it when you know that your idea about the relationship is the fuel that actually makes it run as it runs. And I think here the idea that you create what you experience in your life is pretty clear, because there are many times when you feel quite stuck within a pattern, within an emotion, within a conviction here, that you feel that you are unwilling to change the way that you feel about something. So here it's quite clear that you are involved with this, even though you might be so stuck that even though it should be clear that you are unwilling to perceive it differently, to think differently, to go out of this emotion unless the other changes the way the other is, there are options. There are times here when it's more easy to at least perceive that you are the creator of your own reality. So it's, if you take it with this, these glasses, you see, this is one of the reasons that you want to be in these relationships. You want to be in a place where you can create masterfully and learn to create masterfully with a partner. If you do not feel that it is possible because of the partner, it is probably not because of the partner, but because you don't feel that you can do it. And so often people feel themselves stuck between the fact that they felt they couldn't do it alone, or they wanted someone to create with, but most often they couldn't really achieve the results they desired alone. And then they then put their partner into the equation. Now it's the partner's fault, so to speak, while instead it actually elevated or made more clear where their problems were, how their ideas about reality, what they actually were, so that others could see them, so that they could perceive them. However, when you do not feel equipped to handle such materials, handle ideas, and knowing that they are just that, ideas, that they're not permanent reality, then it becomes more difficult, most difficult actually, to be in relationships and to create growth on a long-term basis. So if there is just the slightest hint that you are not really wanting to change in some directions, this is actually where you should start. You see, this is where you can actually create the greatest amount of change in your life, because it comes up so clearly, because you're so intimately and so constantly involved with this other same person day after day, year after year, that the things that are within you about the other sex, about yourself, about other people in general, they come to the surface. So if you will look at this as a practice ring where you can do it safely because you are with a partner whom you to some degree trust, that you feel safe to be with, or you have at least decided for a period of time that we are going to do this together, which usually you don't get people that committed to being with you. So if that is your entrance into this, then you'll have a much easier time when problems occur. Now, it's not the place where everything should be perfect. It's the place where if there are clear troubles with your personal life, with the way you view yourself or others, that they will eventually and perhaps often and perhaps all the time come up. But it's so that you can practice handling them or changing them. So if this is where, if you feel like your relationship is not a place where you can actually change things, then probably you will have a difficulty doing it anyway, because you'll feel that your own mind will not be the place to change it either. So there's something then that you are not willing to look at, or that you feel incapable of handling within yourself, some issues, some beliefs that you have going on, or even some ghost-like creatures that you're involved with or might be involved with that seem to be wanting something from you, but you cannot deal with it. You're unable to handle it, to face the facts, because basically because you don't feel that you could or that you should. So if you are in a relationship and there are issues, it means here are some of my issues, and usually the partner's issues are in resonance with your issues. But it also means that when one of the partners deals effectively with their issues, that there will be a benefit on both parts. So it's a really good place to start. It's a good playground to be, to play with, and it's a good, nice place to actually create change in your own life. Because if you can do it here, where you're so intensely involved, but where you sort of practice creation, or and effectively and directly with the other person, or in your own mind, in your own time, it does not matter. It gets these things to the surface that are within you, and as you deal with these things, you'll deal with things that you would probably have to deal with anyway in your life, because it has to do with so intimately being involved with other people. So the more successful you allow yourself to create a relationship, well, creating much anything else will be relatively easy in comparison, but it will also be a place where you can actually practice your skills in creating your own reality. So that is a wonderful thing to know, to notice, to be in that state of mind where you know, I create my own reality, and this is a place where I practice creation with someone that I trust and that I deep down I know I love that person. So there is the reward of love, but do not judge it because it's a playground. And you know, sometimes in the playground you get hurt, you fall down, but that doesn't mean that you're not going to try again, that you're not going to try another way, that you're not going to have fun, that you're not going to look at the both the issues and the goals. You see, that's what kids do when they're in the playground. They build sandcastles, they set visions for themselves, but they also realize sometimes limitations or challenges, and then they try to overcome them. But here's the thing, if things seem too hard to handle for the kids, well, their ambitions there are not that important. They will leave them eventually, or they'll find another place where they can create the same things. But if it's you and it's to do with your intimate relations with those you love in general, the way you watch yourself and people around you, it's harder to get out of it because it will follow you everywhere. It's a part of who you are. And so it might lead someone to say they don't want to be in a relationships because they don't want to deal with these things that they feel they cannot deal with. That's why it often feels so very, very constricting to be in a relationship if there are issues that seem to be beyond what you feel like you're capable of handling. So if you allow yourself to see things from that perspective, you'll at least know that this is a playground. This is a place where it's okay to try and fix these things, try and find new solutions or a new way to tackle it. You can experiment. You see, there might be some rules that seem sort of strict within your home, but it is still less strict than you feel them other places, because in your own mind and in your intimate relationship with other, you usually, because you feel safer in that this relationship will hold, usually. And so with that, you can usually give yourself more leeway to experiment with behavior, with new thoughts, new ideas, new perspectives. And you don't have to measure it against your partner's approval. That's the thing. If you just see what happens, you try out a new behavior pattern for a little while, and you see, oh, it's quite well for me. And then after some time, you might see that your partner begins accepting it into, because that's the thing, when you're so committed to each other, then you sort of have to accept the other as they choose to be, to a certain extent. And so you choose a new behavior pattern, they will react, and they will react in a way that are in line with your own beliefs about it, but they will still react. So you can both observe it, observe the reaction, and see how that has to do with what you think about your behavior. But you can also see how you feel about it in those circumstances. And so it's a perfect playground to test out things where you feel more safe than you would otherwise. Now, this is also a place for love, for romance. And so this is when people talk about taking life into romance or into love, going into the state of love. Well, if you can do it here, you can do it mostly anywhere. And so you want to take this as your starting ground for this love, not this over the top crazy love, but for this deep, satisfying, safe feeling of being together with someone, the intimacy that you want to feel. And so the more these goals for yourself consciously and ask questions as to how you can get there, and you experiment in this playground of your relationships for the creation of this greater relationship, but also for the creation of different things that you want to with other people create, because it has so much to do with how you view the world, view other people, this relationship that you have. And so this is the place where you can actually experiment and feel more free to do it, but also it's also the place where you actually create the relationship. So it's both the platform for many other ventures of a social nature mostly, but it's also an self-esteem nature, but it's also the place where you set the goals for the relationships. And so as you begin to see it this way, that this is way, as you create this, you can create much else. You'll be more motivated to do the necessary work, because you will see that it is relevant in all other aspects of your life. If you think that these problems you only have with your wife or your girlfriend, then you would probably and usually not be correct, because those same issues will be the same thing to some extent that holds you back in other areas of your life where you're dealing with other people, or the fact that you're not dealing with other people at all. And so this is absolutely worth going into, and if you begin to see that, you'll feel it as a meaningful platform to be engaged in, where you would want to spend more time. As you know that you want to spend more time there, then you will not resent the other so much, and then you will be gladly to go into these challenges and see how it evolves the relationship and how it helps everyone else or everything else that you're involved with, where other people are involved. And so as you evolve in your relationship, you evolve with your friends, with your colleagues, work, and most anything else. And so as you see it as this basic platform for growth, you'll begin to feel is it more meaningful to also both look at what works and what doesn't. You'll be able to more playfully experiment with what's going on in your life. So the way we would go about doing this, starting these experiments, these changes, and this is just the way to, what we have told thus far is just to get the perspective that this is a meaningful, very, very meaningful and satisfying playground where you can create meaningful changes that will go in all areas of your life. Could do this. Here are some suggestions. If you want to know where you are going in your life, then see what your goals are within this relationship and see what the troubles are, and see if you can see the parallels to other areas of your life. So you can actually play by seeing the parallels, which will actually enable you to draw on greater energy reservoirs into other areas of your life, because you will now see that as you change this in your relationship, you'll also change it other places, and that it will usually be easier to change within your relationship. And as you begin, secondly, a way to effectively utilize this energy and get more energy into the process of just by making this list of goals and seeing where they are also, or where it could also bring you in other areas if you change this and that. Now, if you also think that there are some things that where the other person seems to be forcing you to act in a certain way, then imagine if you forced yourself to act that certain way and ask yourself, how does that make sense to me? So if you feel this is how I want to create, or this is not how I want to create things, but I am doing this anyway, why would I force myself to do this that I claim that my partner is doing to me? Because it will give you insight, because it will usually be you that is forcing you to do as you claim that your partner are forcing you to do. So use this to gain insight about yourself, and usually that will liberate a lot, just to know your own motivations, and it will tell you a lot about your psychic, how it works, and how you are holding yourself in these grips or locks or beliefs that seem negative in your life that you could choose to change if you chose to. Now, this is where I want to go with this, because if you follow along with that, you also know that you have certain abilities within you that are capable of solving these issues. So, if you become aware, what relationship abilities do you have, and how can you use those to create this freedom that you claim you don't have? When you see what the actual troubles are through the second exercise, then you will actually be able to do them, and you'll find some practical solution through how you do things in practice, in practicalities, or you'll begin to actually see that you have abilities so that you don't have to believe as you did before, because now you'll allow these abilities to come to the forefront of your mind, of your being. And there will be many things that you'll begin to discover, which means that you'll begin to discover more abilities within you through this relationship. So sometimes you're like, oh, I really don't want to do this. Sometimes it might be correct, but most often, if there's something that you still feel like is needed for you to be in the relationship, usually those are the very same qualities or abilities that you want to develop in some form. And so find out what are the abilities here that I would really like to develop, and then thank your partner for giving you gentle nudges in that direction. And so then you'll discover what abilities that you want to develop, and you will work with your partner on these issues. And as you work with your partner to develop these, then you'll also see some of the troubles going away, and you'll see other of your deeply seated troubles that you can actually also stop believing in them, or stop feeling locked, or sort of handle them or change them through these abilities that you have found necessary. So all this works together where you are co-creative partners in this relationship. And if your partner are not interested in changing anything, then it's all right, because you get the thing out of it that you want, and your partner benefits from it as well. So it's a symbiotic relationship. Now, if the partner which wishes to get greater benefit from it, you can say, well, this is how I do it. I find these things that I want to change through this relationship, and I'm so grateful for your part in this, honey. I've grown so much because of being with you. You have been a great contribution to my life and living. So now, if you feel that and you convey that, then maybe your partner will want to see how she can be a contribution to her own life through what they, because it puts in the forefront of her mind that she has abilities, so it can be a way to sell it to them, but it's also true. But they don't have to do it, and so you get out of the usual "you should change for me" discussion, because everything is really you, is your chance to develop for you, and that's the thing. And if it's not, then usually it's because you have some deep conviction that holds you from actually being who you are. It doesn't mean that it's not the right relationship for you, but it's something else. But usually, and 80%, it's some ability that you would actually want to develop, but you haven't found ways to do it alone. And so now you take it and do it with this other person, even though you might not be conscious that that is one of the reasons why you went into this relationship, and maybe one of the reasons why you feared it or felt stuck with it, because you felt you couldn't develop this ability, and yet you wanted to push yourself a little bit, so you went into it anyway. And now you're here, but now you have the ability to actually just choose it more, just develop it more through this relationship. The more you thank your partner for being that supportive mechanism in your life, the more you'll feel the cooperative spirit, and the more you feel the cooperation between you, the easier it will be for you to feel harmony with one another. And the more you feel that harmony, you feel that you're naturally a beneficial presence to each other, and which might mean that if you're having sexual troubles, that these are also things that you want to develop together, and you can see what your challenges are, and then you can find out if there are abilities that you could use to change it, or if you blame your partner for something in this area, and then find out how you are actually blocking yourself. And you can also sometimes through this cooperative spirit, by realizing that it's you who want to do all these things, letting that cooperative spirit become flesh, sexuality, and that's how it will often and usually go as you take this general positive attitude toward each other. And many of the problems will go away through this attitude, and those that are still there are there as a cooperative venture that you are into with your most trusted partner, because she is in your partner for such an important reason as to be a part of your creative evolution, and you'll be the same for your partner as your partner learns to use you in that way. But she does, or he does not have to do that. He or she can just choose to let you be who you are, or not take the opportunity for growth that are there, because you don't need them to grow in order to improve the relationship for you, but they might take benefit from doing the same. But you can actually, as you're the one growing, you have more momentum within your energy, and so it will not be important whether your partner is involved with this. You will know that you are growing, and so you will create the changes in the directions that you have found out through this relationship that you actually want to change. And so this is where people often feel that they are forced by their partner to go a certain place, where they realize it was actually them subconsciously who set this relationship up for them to develop these abilities, and then that gave them the power to actually be dominant, to create what they thought the other ones wanted them to create and has helped them create, but it was actually them who set the whole scenario up, and suddenly they have this great coach, mentor partnership with the other person, and everything becomes so much more enjoyable, so much more sensationally wonderful. Now, just enjoy your time here. There'll be much that is not directly involved with developing practical abilities. It might be intimacy, it might be romance, it might be enjoying or letting yourself go, or feeling love, or many other things. But you see, through the process of being with your partner, you will find your own limitations. But your partner, if you really look into how could I create more of this in practical terms with my partner, you will actually in practical terms find actions, if you really think about it, that if you're dedicated to finding this, that will actually solve your mental problems through what you do to your partner, and it will be enough change in your energy that it will change the relationship. That is the way that you can easily go and change this. So this will also mean that when there's a conflict, you will really, really be motivated to find a practical solution, not just a mental one for you, which might do the same thing, but there's another motivation for you to be in this, to actually work to finding a practical solution, to actually take time to buy the birthday presents or whatever it is, or to go all in sexually, or whatever you feel your challenge or what abilities you want to develop through this relationship, be more generous, then you'll want to work on being those things with your partner in practical terms, and that will actually help you solve it, because this relationship is so intimately that it is created in exactly the way that will help you face your own barriers, so to speak. And as you practically solve them, many of your barriers will go away. And when you have done something successful in your relationship, remember that it's you that you are doing it for, and partner, but firstly for yourself, because then you'll not expect so much. You'll just be happy that you get to do it, that you got to develop the skill in these safe areas, boundaries with your partner, and you'll feel fantastic that you got to do that. And you'll feel grateful that you got to do that. What you learn through this process of doing these actions for, with, around your partner. And from that experience, you'll get wisdom that you can use yourself and change the last bits that might still be lingering in your mentality, because you have now this experience that you know that you can do intimacy, that you know that it's safe enough. And so you can realize, well, maybe you don't have to be used to hold on to, and then you've found about yourself through this relationship. When you have acted and found practical solution that worked, then you can very easily make the mental adjustments that might also be needed. And so this is just a very simple way to approach relationships, a very motivating one, a very cooperative one, very great amounts of harmony, knowledge about yourself, and play and fun. Don't make this too serious. Just make it something that you're highly motivated for. For it might be fun, that is the very thing you want to create or to develop. So let this be your lesson in how to develop your relationship and be happy that you are in a relationship with someone. Not that you have to stay in it forever, but it will always help you to be motivated toward whatever you're in. And this is how you could be motivated to be in this and actually use it as a constructive way, because this is real knowledge. This is how it usually works. So know this and learn from it. Thank you.